Hey guys, tonight we're stepping right into a story that might sound familiar, but trust me, it's going to sting deeper than you expect. It starts with something small, something so ordinary you might even laugh at it at first. A family dinner. You know those long tables full of chatter, half-warmed dishes, and arguments disguised as conversations. But this time, the dinner wasn't just about food. It was about belonging, or rather, not belonging. You probably won't survive this story if you've ever been left out by people you love. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to watch the video and subscribe. But only if you really like what I'm doing here, because this isn't going to be easy listening. It's going to be raw. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's comfortably embark on tonight's journey. It began with a calendar notification, a ping on my phone that shouldn't have meant anything. My daughter Clara had shared her digital calendar with me months ago so I could keep track of family birthdays and school plays for my grandkids. So when I saw the event titled Family Dinner at 7:00 p.m. to Main House, I smiled automatically. It had been a while since we all sat together. The last time I'd made my chicken pot pie, the one recipe that somehow kept its crown over 30 years of in-law competition. I remember the compliments felt thinner that night, though. Polite restrained, like when someone at church says, "How nice," but their eyes say, "We've moved on." At first, I didn't think much of it. Families evolve, people grow busy, and dinners get rearranged. But when I texted Clara that morning, "What can I bring tonight?" there was no reply. Not even the 3 dots, just silence. A few hours later, I checked again, and the event was gone. Deleted, no trace of it in the calendar. That strange mix of embarrassment and confusion crept into my stomach. I even wondered if I'd imagined it. Maybe my old phone glitched again. But just as I was convincing myself it didn't matter, a new message came through. It was from my son's wife, Lydia. It wasn't meant for me. I could tell by the way it began. "Don't tell her we're doing it tonight. She'll make it about herself again." My name wasn't there, but I didn't need it. Families have their own kind of language, don't they? You can feel when you're being discussed even without a name. I froze, staring at the message longer than I should have. My hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from humiliation. I wasn't invited to my own family's dinner. That's the kind of rejection that hits differently in later life. When you're older, you think you've earned your seat at the table through decades of effort, meals, cooked bills, paid nights, stayed up worrying. You believe your presence is permanent, but the truth is, family dynamics shift like sand. The younger ones don't mean harm most of the time. They just start to see you as furniture, as background. A mainstream study I once read said that around 60% of elderly parents feel socially excluded by their adult children. The word excluded feels sterile in print, but living it, breathing, it is something else entirely. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, I told myself half out loud. My cat Biscuit flicked her tail as if she didn't buy it either. I made tea, though it went cold quickly. You know how loneliness tastes, like over-steeped tea and disappointment. Still, I didn't call anyone. I didn't want to confirm the truth. There's a strange superstition in me, call it a mother's ritual, that if you don't say it aloud, maybe it isn't real. People still debate whether silence is strength or surrender. Later that evening, I dressed anyway. Simple blouse cardigan, the good brooch my husband had given me on our 25th anniversary. I even brushed my hair twice. Ridiculous, I know. But part of me hoped someone would call at the last minute saying, "Mom, where are you? We're waiting." The phone stayed still. The only sound was the refrigerator humming and Biscuit crunching her dinner. So I sat at my own table, a single plate, before me, lit one candle out of habit, and tried not to imagine what was happening at theirs. The mind fills in blanks cruelly. I could picture the laughter, the clinking of glasses, Lydia's forced giggle, my son's serious tone when he talks about work. I pictured the chair at the end of the table, my chair empty but unnoticed. Families don't need to be cruel to hurt you. They just need to forget you exist. And here's the strange part. Later that night, when I opened my email, I found something unexpected. A message from an old name, Mr. Harold Graham, family attorney. The subject line said, "Following up regarding your signature on the property file." I blinked at it, puzzled. Property file signature. I hadn't signed anything in months. I almost deleted it, assuming it was spam. But the sender was genuine. I recognized his name from years ago, back when my husband handled all our affairs. That's when something in my chest shifted. A suspicion faint but persistent, like a draft sneaking through a locked window. What if tonight's dinner wasn't just about exclusion? What if it was about something else? Something they didn't want me to know. I looked at the clock. 9:23 p.m. By then, the dinner would be winding down, dishes stacked, laughter quieter, and somewhere in their living room, they'd be talking about me, about the house, about what comes after me. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there letting the candle burn lower, realizing this wasn't just a missed invitation. It was a message. They didn't want me at the table anymore, but they were still planning to eat what was mine. The next morning, the house feels heavier than usual, as if the air itself remembers what happened last night. Biscuit curls at my feet, unaware that her human has just fallen out of her own family circle. I make coffee out of routine, pour it into the same chipped mug my son made in 3rd grade, back when he still brought me drawings instead of silence. The mug says "Number 1, Mom," though the paint has faded to a ghostly gray. I stare at it and almost laugh. I suppose awards expire too. When you reach my age, you start noticing the quiet betrayals more than the loud ones. The phone that doesn't ring anymore, the way people use busy as an escape hatch. The small decisions that erase you from family plans. There's a term for it in psychology: emotional sidelining. It means being physically present in a family but psychologically benched. It's not dramatic like being disowned. It's worse because it's slow. You can feel yourself fading from relevance, one polite smile at a time. I try to distract myself with chores. I sweep the porch, trim a few dead plants, even reorganize the pantry like it's a new start. But inside, my mind keeps replaying that text, "Don't tell her we're doing it tonight." It loops endlessly like a song you hate but can't stop humming. The words "don't tell her" sting the most. How many other times had they not told me things? My grandson's soccer game, Clara's new promotion, my birthday dinner that turned into just a quiet night this year. I wonder when I became the family's afterthought. People still debate whether modern families are more connected by technology or more fragmented because of it. From where I stand, all those group chats and shared calendars seem to do one thing best: exclude with precision. Around noon, I open the email again, the one from Harold Graham, the lawyer. I read it carefully this time. It's short, formal, and confusing. "Dear Mrs. Carver, please confirm your current address for the updated property documents. We have been informed that your co-signature was already provided last week, though the notary record appears incomplete. Kindly verify this matter as soon as possible. Regards, H. Graham." My co-signature. That can't be right. I haven't signed a thing in years. My late husband Thomas handled all that. He was meticulous with paperwork. After he passed, everything went to me. At least that's what the will said. I even remember Harold explaining it slowly, almost tenderly at the office. "The house and remaining savings are yours entirely, Mrs. Carver. You're secure." I remember nodding through tears. That was 6 years ago, so how could there be new property documents? I decide to call him. My hand shakes slightly as I dial. The phone rings 3 times before his calm, deep voice answers. Harold Graham speaking. "Mr. Graham, it's Evelyn Carver," I say softly. There's a pause, then recognition. "Ah, Mrs. Carver, I was just about to follow up. Thank you for calling. I assume you're aware of the updates on your residence." "Updates," I repeat, my voice tightening. "No, I'm not aware. What kind of updates?" He hesitates. I can hear him flipping through papers. It appears there was a recent request to transfer partial ownership of your property to a family trust. Your name remains primary, of course, but the request listed your children as co-beneficiaries. The word transfer makes my stomach drop. That's impossible. I didn't authorize anything. "Indeed," he replies. "That's why I reached out. The notary record seems inconsistent. Someone submitted documentation with what appears to be your signature, but it lacks proper witness verification. I assumed it was an oversight. But if you're telling me you never signed, I didn't," I interrupt. My voice cracks more from disbelief than anger. "Who would even—" He clears his throat gently. I suggest we meet Mrs. Carver. There may be more to discuss. Are you available this evening? I agree, though my heart hammers in my chest. When I hang up, I sit still for a long time. The sound of the ticking clock feels deafening. Could my own children have done this? No, that's too cruel, too deliberate. Maybe they were misled. Maybe Lydia handled the paperwork and made a mistake. But deep down, I already know better. Families don't just exclude you from dinners for no reason. There's always a pattern, a slow setup before the real act. That afternoon, I decide to walk past the main house. It's only 3 blocks away, but I haven't gone since the incident. The front yard looks 2 perfect trimmed hedges, manicured lawn, not a single leaf out of place. It's strange how wealth and guilt often share the same aesthetic, polished, quiet, and over-controlled. Through the window, I see Lydia arranging flowers. Yellow tulips, my tulips. I gave her those bulbs years ago. She didn't see me, but I saw her expression tight, self-satisfied, like someone rehearsing her victory. I don't knock. I just keep walking, pretending I'm out for a casual stroll. But something inside me has shifted. A calm, sharp kind of anger settles in. It's the kind of emotion that doesn't scream, it calculates. I think about Thomas again, about how careful he was with his will. He always said, "Evelyn, people change when paper and money mix." I thought he meant distant relatives. I never imagined he meant our children. When Harold arrives that evening, I almost don't recognize him. It's been years since we last met. He's older, grayer, but his eyes still carry that lawyer's blend of warmth and vigilance. He steps into my modest living room and looks around. "You've kept it just as Thomas liked it," he says softly. "I try," I reply, forcing a smile. We sit. He opens his briefcase, pulling out a folder thick with papers. "Mrs. Carver, I'll be blunt. Someone is attempting to alter ownership of your property using a falsified signature. It's not finalized yet, thankfully, but the process has been initiated. The forms list both your children as co-beneficiaries under something called the Carver Family Renewal Trust." I let out a short laugh, more air than humor. Renewal, that's one word for it. He chuckles politely but looks concerned. "Do you recognize this?" He slides a photocopy toward me. My breath catches. It's my signature, but not quite. The loops are wrong, the tail of the C too long, the E slightly off. Whoever did this practiced. My hands tremble as I trace the lines. They used my old signature, from before arthritis changed it. Harold nods grimly, likely taken from an older document. "I'll file an injunction immediately, but I wanted to inform you personally. There's more you should know that tonight's family gathering was where these matters were being discussed." So I was right. It wasn't dinner. It was strategy. I close my eyes, fighting the sting of betrayal that finally surfaces as tears. They excluded me from the table because they were dividing the table itself, I whisper. Harold leans forward, his voice soft but firm. "You have rights, Mrs. Carver, and you're not as powerless as they believe." We talk for over an hour, mapping out the steps to protect my estate. I feel oddly steady now, anchored by anger and purpose. When he leaves, the house feels less heavy, more like mine again. I walk to the window and look out at the night. The street is quiet, the air cool. Somewhere out there, my children are celebrating their small victory, unaware that the lawyer they thought was theirs had come to me first. I whisper to myself, half in sorrow, half in defiance, "Let them eat their dinner. Tomorrow, the bill comes due. The next morning feels different. The air itself seems to carry the aftertaste of revelation. I wake up early, not because I slept well, but because my mind refused to rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my signature, forged and confident, sitting at the bottom of that document like a quiet betrayal. I imagine Lydia's perfectly manicured hands holding the pen steady, almost proud. My son Daniel probably sitting beside her, convincing himself it was for the family. Funny how easily people justify deceit when it benefits them. I make breakfast anyway. Habit is the only anchor left when trust collapses. I crack 2 eggs into the pan and watch the yolks swirl together. My late husband used to say that families are like eggs, fragile, easy to crack, and impossible to piece back together once broken. I used to laugh at that. Back then, we were still whole. Halfway through eating, I noticed something on the table. An envelope pale yellow slipped through the mail slot early this morning. No name, no stamp, just one word in handwriting I know too well, Mom. The simplicity of it hits me harder than I expect. I tear it open carefully as if it might explode. Inside is a single folded sheet. "We didn't mean to hurt you," it begins. The words feel rehearsed. "Lydia thought it was better if we handled things quietly. You get overwhelmed easily, and we didn't want to stress you. We're only securing the property so it doesn't get tangled in taxes later. Please don't misunderstand." "We love you," signed Daniel. "Love," he says. The word sits heavy in my chest, sour and cold. If love now means deceit behind polite explanations, then maybe I've been loving wrong all my life. I fold the letter back up and place it on the counter like evidence at a crime scene, because that's what it is. It's strange how a family can fracture without a single shout. No slammed doors, no dramatic exits. Just quiet paperwork, polite texts, and dinners you're not invited to. I think about how many older parents face this same invisible exile. There's a study that says around 1 in 5 elderly individuals lose active contact with their adult children due to practical misunderstandings. I doubt that statistic captures the full ache of it. People still debate whether independence in old age is liberation or loneliness. From where I stand, it feels like both. By afternoon, Harold calls again. I've spoken with the notary, he says, voice measured. They confirmed someone submitted those documents in person. The woman claimed to be acting with your consent. We have her name. I already know. Lydia. There's a pause. Yes, he says quietly. Do you wish to proceed legally? I stare out the window at the bare maple tree in my yard. The branches look like bones reaching for something they'll never touch again. Not yet, I answer. Not until I understand why. That why becomes my obsession for the rest of the day. I open old photo albums searching for clues of when affection turned into calculation. Daniel and Clara as children, flour on their cheeks while baking with me. Family vacations smiling too wide for cameras. There's one photo that stops me at Thanksgiving dinner from 5 years ago. Lydia's eyes, fixed on the silver candlestick beside me, gleam with something sharp. She looks at the table like a conqueror assessing her prize. Maybe the betrayal started then, small and unspoken, like a seed that waited for its moment to bloom. As evening falls, I feel restless. The lawyer had told me not to confront them directly yet. Patience is your best weapon, he'd said, but patience tastes like ash when you've been humiliated. I decide to take a drive instead. The streets are empty, the kind of quiet that amplifies your thoughts. I pass the familiar landmarks, the bakery where Daniel used to buy birthday cakes, the park where Clara learned to ride her bike. Every place feels like a ghost town filled with memories that no longer belong to me. I end up at the church. Not for prayer, I'm not sure faith helps much with family greed, but for stillness. Inside it's dim, smelling faintly of old wood and candle wax. I sit near the back, staring at the stained glass. A young couple walks in whispering, holding hands. I can't remember the last time someone held my hand without calculation. I whisper to myself, maybe this is what aging really means, watching people you raised build new worlds where you don't fit. My voice echoes faintly. It sounds foreign. When I return home, there's another surprise. A car parked outside, sleek, unfamiliar. For a moment, I think Lydia's come to apologize. But when the door opens, it's Clara, my daughter wearing a beige coat and a guilty expression. Mom, she says softly, can I come in? I nod, though part of me wants to shut the door. She steps inside carefully, as if walking through sacred ground. She looks around the house, eyes moistening. I know you know, she says finally. About the papers. I do, I reply. I also know about the dinner. Her eyes drop. That wasn't my idea. Lydia said I cut her off. Lydia says a lot of things. What do you say, Clara? She hesitates, biting her lip like she did as a teenager. I didn't want this to happen. I thought we could talk about it later, but Daniel insisted it was just legal stuff, not betrayal. He said we'd surprise you after everything was settled. I laugh, a sharp, humorless sound. Oh, I'm surprised, all right. She winces. Mom, please don't see it as stealing. It's just, we're thinking long term. If something happens to you, I hold up my hand. Stop right there. Don't use my death as your justification. The words come out colder than I expect. For the first time, she can't look me in the eye. She starts to cry, then soft, restrained tears like someone mourning, not a person, but the loss of an illusion. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. Lydia pushed Daniel. Daniel pushed me. And I froze. There it is, the familiar pattern of silence and complicity. Every family has one member who watches wrongdoing quietly, convincing themselves they're innocent because they didn't participate loudly enough. Clara is that person. Always was. I sigh, feeling the exhaustion of decades settle on my shoulders. You know, I say slowly, families are strange things. We think blood protects us from betrayal, but sometimes it only gives betrayal a home address. She cries harder, reaching for my hand. I let her hold it, but the warmth doesn't reach my chest. Somewhere deep down, I've already begun building walls. Before she leaves, she turns at the door. Mom, the lawyer's on your side, isn't he? I meet her gaze. He's on the side of what's right. You should try that sometime. After she's gone, I sit by the window again, watching the moon rise. It's pale, detached, like a witness who refuses to intervene. I whisper, "You've seen families eat each other alive before, haven't you?" Biscuit jumps onto my lap, purring softly, oblivious to the ruins of human loyalty around her. I stroke her fur and let the night stretch long. Somewhere inside me, a plan begins to form, not for revenge, but for reclamation. They wanted to erase me from the table. Maybe it's time I build my own. Morning creeps in quietly, though I feel like I've been awake all night. I keep seeing that look on Clara's face, the guilt, the tears, the hesitation. She looked like a child again, caught doing something wrong, unsure whether to confess or deflect. But what keeps me up isn't her remorse. It's what's underneath it. Fear. My daughter is afraid of someone, and I know exactly who, Lydia. That woman has been steering this family since the day she married Daniel, whispering suggestions that sound like common sense, but always seem to benefit her the most. Lydia is clever in the way dangerous people are never directly cruel, just consistently convenient. I sip my coffee and stare at the stack of old bills on the counter, pretending to organize them while my mind churns. Last night after Clara left, I took out the folder Harold gave me. The fraudulent document sits inside a single piece of paper that represents everything that's gone wrong in this family. I trace the fake signature again and notice something odd. Just beneath my printed name is a faint date stamp, April 17th. That was the same day Lydia brought me tea when she came to visit. I remember because she insisted I drink it while she helped me sort the mail. I was tired that day. My joints ached, and she was unusually kind, hovering like a nurse. Maybe too kind. I set the cup down, the sound sharper than intended. Could she have taken one of my old documents then? Maybe even scanned it. People still debate whether betrayal feels worse when it's subtle or when it's sudden. I think subtle wins every time it gives you time to love your betrayer even while they're hurting you. Around noon, I call Harold again. "Can you come by this afternoon?" I ask. My voice feels steadier now. There's something I want to check. He agrees, promising to bring his assistant to verify the documents in person. While I wait, I do something I haven't done in years. I take out my husband's journal. Thomas wasn't the sentimental type, but he had a habit of writing short notes whenever he felt uncertain. After he died, I couldn't bring myself to read them all. Too much grief trapped in ink. But now I search for clues. I flip through the pages until I find one dated just months before he passed. It says, "If they ever forget who built this home, remind them who holds the deed. Protect Evelyn from the wolves in silk." My breath catches. He knew. He saw this coming long before I did. When Harold arrives, I show him the note. He nods solemnly. Thomas was wise. He knew families change when assets enter the picture. He opens his briefcase and pulls out more papers. "We found something else, Mrs. Carver. The trust Lydia filed wasn't just about this house. It includes your savings account and life insurance beneficiary changes." For a moment, I can't breathe. "You're telling me they tried to rewrite my entire legacy?" "Yes," he says quietly. "And they nearly succeeded. But since they acted without your notarized consent, none of it holds legal weight yet." I let out a shaky laugh. Yet. That's the word that keeps people like Lydia awake at night, isn't it? Harold smiles faintly. And people like you wide awake planning. He's right, I am planning. I ask him to prepare new papers documents that restore full ownership to me along with one subtle addition, an updated clause in my will. He raises an eyebrow when he reads it. You're sure about this? Completely, I say. If they want to play legal chess, let's see how they handle checkmate. He chuckles softly. You've got Thomas's fire. After they leave, I sit in the quiet again, feeling something I haven't felt in months control. The house doesn't feel like a cage anymore. It feels like my territory again. The ticking clock sounds less like time passing and more like a heartbeat. By late afternoon, I decide to do something bold. I bake. It's a small rebellion, but an important one. I make the old chicken pot pie recipe, the one that used to bring everyone together. The smell fills the kitchen thick with nostalgia and irony. When I pull it from the oven, I set 2 places at the table, one for me, one for Thomas. I talk to him as I eat like I used to when he was alive. You were right, I murmur. About the wolves. The fork clinks softly against the plate. Outside, a car door slams. My first instinct is annoyance, probably a delivery. But then I hear voices. Familiar ones. I glance out the window and freeze. It's Daniel and Lydia. I don't move. I watch as they approach the front door, arguing under their breath. Lydia looks furious. Daniel looks defeated. When the knock comes, it's sharp and patient. I wait a moment before answering. Mom. Daniel starts forcing a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Can we come in? Lydia's right behind him, holding a stack of documents in her pristine folder. We just want to clear some things up, she says sweetly, like poison wrapped in sugar. I step aside. Of course. Come in. They sit awkwardly at the table, eyeing the half-eaten pie. Lydia's gaze lingers on it too long, maybe realizing this was once the meal that made her part of the family. Now it's the symbol of what she tried to take. Daniel clears his throat. Mom, about those papers, it was a misunderstanding. We didn't mean to forge my signature, I interrupt. Strange misunderstanding. He winces. It wasn't like that. Lydia thought I can speak for myself, she snaps, shooting him a glare. Then she turns to me, smiling tightly. Evelyn, I think this has been blown out of proportion. We were only trying to plan ahead. You're getting older and Daniel works full time. I hold up a hand. Stop pretending this was for my benefit. You wanted control. Her lips curl slightly. You make it sound so ugly. We just wanted security. The house belongs to the family. It is the family, I reply coldly. You just forgot who built it. For a moment, silence stretches thick as fog. Then Lydia leans back, crossing her legs elegantly. Well, maybe it's time the next generation took over. You can't live here forever. The audacity nearly makes me laugh. Instead, I rise and walk to the cabinet. I pull out a thin envelope the new will Harold drafted hours ago and lay it gently on the table. You're right, I say softly. I can't live forever, but I can decide what happens when I'm gone. Lydia's expression falters. What's that? My revised will, I say. You'll be pleased to know it includes both of you. Her eyes light up greedily until I finish. As witnesses, not beneficiaries. Daniel's mouth falls open. Mom, that's not fair. What's fair, I say, voice calm but cutting, is that I no longer trust people who plot behind my back. What's fair is protecting myself. What's family? I pause, leaning forward is something I used to believe we were. Lydia stands abruptly, face flushed. You'll regret this. Maybe, I reply, but at least I'll regret it in my own home. They leave in a flurry of slammed doors and muttered curses. I don't watch them go. I just sit back down, exhale slowly, and take another bite of pie. It's cold now, but it still tastes like victory. People think family dramas are about shouting matches and broken dishes. But the real ones, the quiet wars, are fought in legal papers and long silences. I may be old, but I've just learned something new, the difference between being forgotten and being underestimated. And I plan to use that difference very carefully. By the next morning, my kitchen smells faintly of cold pie and a victory that still feels fragile. I sit at the table, sipping my coffee, slowly watching the light crawl across the linoleum. There's peace in routine, but today that peace feels earned. Lydia's words from last night replay in my head. You'll regret this. Maybe I will, but for once regret feels like a price worth paying for dignity. The house hums quietly around me, the refrigerator clicking the old clock marking time like a metronome for my thoughts. People say time heals everything. I've learned time doesn't heal, it just reveals. It shows you who stays, who leaves, and who is only ever waiting for your chair to be empty. Harold calls mid-morning. His tone is crisp professional, but there's an undercurrent of satisfaction. Mrs. Carver, I filed the injunction last night. The trust Lydia created has been frozen. Any attempt to move your property or funds will now require your explicit authorization. You're fully protected. For a second, I can't speak. The sense of relief that floods me is almost dizzying. Thank you, I finally say. You've done more for me in a week than my family has in years. He laughs softly. I'm just doing my job. But between us, I think your husband would be proud. The mention of Thomas brings a lump to my throat. He warned me, I whisper. He saw this coming. Harold's voice softens. He did. And he trusted you'd handle it when the time came. I'll stop by tomorrow with the final paperwork. But in the meantime, rest, Mrs. Carver. Let them come to you. When we hang up, I sit in silence for a long while, feeling something shift inside me. For years, I thought peace came from keeping everyone together, smoothing things over, swallowing hurt for the sake of harmony. But peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of boundaries. That's what Thomas tried to teach me. I just wish I'd learned sooner. Around noon, there's a knock at the door again. My first instinct is to brace myself, but when I open it, it's not Daniel or Lydia, it's Clara. Alone this time, holding a paper bag that smells like fresh bread. Truce offering, she says quietly. I step aside, letting her in. She looks exhausted, like someone who's been fighting two wars, one outside, one inside. Her eyes scan the room, landing on the same envelope Lydia saw last night. So it's true, she murmurs. You changed everything. I had to. I reply. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know what they were doing. She nods slowly, setting the bag on the table. Daniel's furious. Lydia's... Well, Lydia. She's talking about lawyers, about fighting it. She's welcome to try, I say. I have the truth. And Harold? Clara sighs, then looks up at me with a question that's been simmering for years. Mom, do you hate us? The question hits harder than I expect. Hate, no. That would be easy. What I feel is heavier, quieter, like a stone lodged behind the heart. No, Clara, I say softly. I don't hate you. I'm just disappointed. You're my children. I raised you to be better than this, to care about people more than property. Tears well in her eyes again. I tried to stop them, but Daniel, he listens to Lydia more than anyone now. She controls everything, even how he thinks. There's a long pause. I reach out, touching her hand, then stop letting her control you. You're not a child anymore. She nods, but her expression is torn. You don't know how persuasive she can be. She's already telling Daniel you forged the new will out of spite, that Harold manipulated you. I smile faintly. Let her talk. Truth doesn't need defending, Clara. It survives on its own. We eat lunch quietly. She brought homemade bread and soup. It's simple, comforting. For a moment, it feels almost like the old days when conversation didn't require caution. She tells me about the kids, how school's been hectic, how her youngest wants to learn piano. I listen, really listen, because I know this might be one of the few genuine moments we have left. As she's leaving, she turns at the doorway. Mom, you know this isn't over, right? I know, I reply, but neither am I. That night, I find myself sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the neighborhood quiet down. Somewhere down the street, a dog barks lazily. The wind smells faintly of rain. I think about all the families behind those glowing windows, all the dinners happening without me. It used to hurt imagining it. Now it just feels like distance, a clean break from the noise. There's a cultural article I read once about how in some countries elders are the center of the family. They hold the stories, the wisdom, the decisions. In others, once you retire, you're expected to fade quietly into the background. Maybe my family chose the latter model. Maybe they thought removing me from the table was just a modern efficiency. People still debate whether progress makes families stronger or just more transactional. I think I know where I stand. When the rain starts, I stay outside, letting it tap against my skin. I used to run from storms. Now I find comfort in them. They remind me that even the sky needs to break open sometimes. The next day brings more noise, this time in the form of Daniel's voice on the phone. "Mom, what the hell did you do?" he snaps, skipping any greeting. I stay calm. "Good morning to you too, dear," he exhales sharply. "Lydia said you've frozen the trust. That's our future you're messing with." "Your future," I repeat slowly, "shouldn't depend on my name." There's a pause. Then his voice drops cold and formal. "You're making a mistake. When you're gone, people are going to think you were manipulated. By whom?" "My conscience," I say dryly. He hangs up without another word. I sit for a moment, phone still in hand, realizing that's the first time my son has ever spoken to me like a stranger. And yet instead of breaking, I feel lighter. You can't lose what's already drifted away. Later that afternoon, Harold calls again. "I have something for you," he says. "Thomas's secondary clause, the one we thought was just a formality." He comes by carrying a small envelope with the original deed attached. On the back, in my husband's handwriting, are 5 words, "Only Evelyn decides what stands." I laugh quietly, tears threatening to spill. He always had the last word. Harold smiles. He also left something else, a letter. "Said to give it to you when she starts doubting herself." I open it slowly. The ink is faint, but the words are unmistakably his. "If they ever try to erase you, remember you built the table they're sitting at. Don't fight for your place, make them earn theirs." I press the letter to my chest. For the first time in days, I don't feel alone. That evening, I light a candle in front of his old photograph. I whisper, "I'm earning it, Thomas." The flame flickers as if nodding in agreement. As I turn off the lights, I realize something simple but profound. The dinner I was excluded from was never about food. It was about value, about who gets to matter when the plates are full. And tonight, I've reclaimed my hunger for something better: respect, truth, peace. Tomorrow, Harold will finalize the papers. Tomorrow, I'll invite Clara to dinner, not to mend everything, but to start over. Just her and me. No agendas, no inheritance talk, just 2 women finally seeing each other again. I smile faintly, whispering into the dark, "Let them have their feasts. I have my freedom." Morning sunlight slants through the blinds in thin gold lines, painting the kitchen table where last night's candle has burned itself down to a stub. The wax pooled and hardened like the remnants of something once alive. I stare at it while my coffee brews the rhythmic gurgle filling the silence. It's strange how after all the tension, I feel calm. Not happy, not triumphant, just steady. The kind of steadiness that comes after you've cried every tear you had and realized the world didn't collapse. Biscuit hops onto the counter. Tail flicking, demanding attention. I scratch her behind the ears. "It's just you and me, kid," I murmur. She purrs, unbothered by family politics, unaware of property disputes and forged signatures. Cats are lucky like that, loyal only to warmth. Today is the day Harold returns with the final paperwork. I've already cleared the dining table, dusted the sideboard, even made a pot of tea. I'm not doing it for show. I'm doing it because this meeting marks something symbolic. A reset. The official end of being the family's silent target. When Harold arrives, he's accompanied by a younger woman, his assistant Nora. She looks barely 30, confident but kind-eyed. They both remove their coats and settle in. Harold spreads the documents across the table. Everything's finalized, he says, his tone efficient but warm. The injunction stands, your property rights are confirmed, and the fraudulent trust is dissolved. You're once again the sole owner. I nod, exhaling slowly. So it's done, he smiles. Legally, yes. Morally, that's your department. I chuckle softly. Morals are expensive these days, but I'll manage. Nora grins, then slides another document toward me. There's one more thing. Your husband's original handwritten note is now officially notarized and added as a codicil to your will. That phrase he wrote, "Only Evelyn decides what stands," is now part of the record. That means if anyone tries to contest your estate, the court must consider your autonomy as explicitly protected. Something inside me swells. Not pride exactly, but validation. For the first time since Thomas's death, I feel like he's truly beside me again. Not as a ghost, but as a quiet guardian still working through his meticulous notes. "Thank you," I whisper. "Both of you. You have no idea what this means." Harold gives me that look the kind older men give when they understand without needing to say it. "Actually, Mrs. Carver, I do." After they leave, I sit there for a while tracing the embossed seal on the final page. My name carved into legality. My home, my right, my story. It feels good to see it in writing. Words have power, after all. They can be used to wound or to reclaim. Later that afternoon, I decide to take a walk to clear my head. The wind is crisp, carrying the smell of wet leaves and chimney smoke. Autumn always makes me nostalgic, but this year it feels different. I'm not mourning the past anymore. I'm observing it like a museum exhibit I've finally walked out of. Halfway down the block, I see Clara's car parked outside the bakery. She's sitting inside, head bent over her phone, probably avoiding another argument at home. I tap on her window gently. She looks up startled, then smiles with visible relief. "Mom, what are you doing here? I was craving something sweet," I say, sliding into the seat beside her, once she invites me in. "And maybe something honest." She blushes, tucking her hair behind her ear. "I wanted to see you. Lydia's been spinning stories nonstop. Daniel's angry all the time. I can barely stand being in that house." I watch her face, the fatigue in it. Then don't I say quietly, "You don't have to live under their tension. You're not a hostage." She looks down. "It's complicated." "It always is," I reply. But complicated isn't the same as impossible. We sit in silence for a moment before I add, "I'm hosting dinner tomorrow. Just us. No hidden agendas. You and me." Her eyes soften. "Really? Yes. You can bring the kids if you want. I think this house could use some laughter again." She nods, tears glimmering but not falling. "I'll be there." After she leaves, I walk the long way home. Every porch I pass glows with warmth. Families laughing TVs, murmuring, the smell of dinners drifting through open windows. Once upon a time, that sight made me ache. Now I just feel curious about how many of those smiles are real. Families love to perform unity. It's one of humanity's favorite rituals. People still debate whether family bonds are unconditional love or just long-term negotiations. Personally, I think it's both tangled so tightly you can't always tell which one you're giving. That night, I tidy up the house more thoroughly than usual. I polish the silver, set out the good plates, and even iron the tablecloth. Not for show, this time it's ritual. Every fold, every swipe of the cloth feels like reclaiming something that was taken from me. Then, unexpectedly, the doorbell rings. I glance at the clock. It's nearly 8 p.m. Too late for Harold, too early for Clara. My stomach tightens as I open the door. It's Daniel, alone. He looks tired, older than his years. No Lydia in sight, no arrogance in his posture. Just a man standing awkwardly, holding a bottle of wine. "Can I come in?" he asks quietly. I hesitate, then step aside. "You can try." He chuckles softly at that, though the sound is brittle. Fair. We sit in the living room, the silence between us thick, but not hostile. Finally, he exhales. "Mom, I came to apologize. For everything. The dinner, the trust, the way we treated you." I study his face. He's my son, the same boy who used to collect worms after rainstorms, the one who held my hand, crossing streets. Somewhere along the way, ambition twisted him into someone I barely recognized. "Why now?" I ask. He looks down. "Lydia went too far. She's furious you stopped her plan, said I ruined everything. She packed her bags and left. Took the kids to her sister's for a while. I think she only married me for what she thought we'd inherit." I stay quiet. Sometimes silence is the only mirror that makes people truly see themselves. He continues, voice breaking slightly. "I just wanted to protect the family, Mom. I didn't see what it was turning into." I nod slowly. "You forgot that protecting the family starts with protecting its heart." He swallows hard, nodding. "I know that now." We sit for a while longer. He tells me about his regrets, how Lydia pushed him into every decision, how he felt trapped. I listen. I don't absolve him, but I listen. Sometimes that's punishment enough. Before he leaves, he says, "I'll be at dinner tomorrow too if you'll have me." I smile faintly. "You better bring dessert." When the door closes behind him, I exhale deeply. The night feels lighter somehow. Maybe not mended, but thawed. Families don't heal in one conversation. They heal in small gestures that prove you're still willing to show up. I glance at the table set for tomorrow, 3 plates this time. It's not the big family dinner I was excluded from, but maybe this one will matter more. As I blow out the last candle, I whisper to Thomas's photo on the mantel. You'd laugh if you saw this mess. But we're learning one dinner at a time, and somewhere deep down, I swear I hear him answer, not in words, but in the quiet rustle of the house, finally breathing again. The morning of the dinner arrives like a cautious sunrise, soft, uncertain, but undeniably there. I wake before dawn, unable to sleep my mind, busy with details. For years, I'd hosted family dinners on autopilot, measuring ingredients and setting tables without thinking. But today, every action feels deliberate, almost ceremonial. The sound of chopping onions, the scent of butter melting in the pan, it all carries meaning now. This isn't just a meal, it's a quiet restoration. I decide on a simple menu: roast chicken, garlic, mashed potatoes, and the chocolate cake Clara loved as a child. I even take out Thomas's old apron, the one with the faded King of the Grill logo. It's silly, I know, but it feels like inviting him back to the table. As the morning light filters through the curtains, I glance at the empty chairs waiting around the table. For years, they've been symbols of absence, missing people, missing kindness. But today, they feel like promises. By noon, the house smells like warmth itself. I'm frosting the cake when I hear the front door creak open. Clara steps inside holding a vase of flowers. I thought we could use some color, she says shyly. Perfect timing, I reply, smiling. The chicken's almost ready. She looks around the house, her expression softening. It feels like home again, maybe because we're finally treating it like one I say. She laughs quietly and starts helping me set the table. There's a comfortable rhythm between us, the clink of plates, the rustle of napkins. For a while, it feels almost like before, when things were simpler, when forgiveness wasn't a word that required effort. Around 2 o'clock, Daniel arrives. He looks nervous but carries himself differently. Humbled, perhaps. He's holding a box from the bakery. Dessert as requested, he says with a tentative smile. Good, I reply. You remembered. He hesitates at the doorway before finally stepping in. Thanks for letting me come. Everyone deserves one more dinner, I say softly. As we sit, the air between us is cautious, but gentle. Conversation starts slow, awkwardly polite, then gradually loosens. Clara talks about her kids' piano lessons. Daniel admits he's been looking for new work now that Lydia's gone. I listen more than I speak, letting them fill the silence with small talk that feels heavier than it sounds. Halfway through the meal, Daniel clears his throat. I talked to Harold, he says quietly. He told me what you did, about the new will. I understand why. I set my fork down. Do you? He nods. You were right to protect yourself. We took you for granted. We thought we were doing what was best, but we were just being selfish. Clara reaches over, touching his arm. At least you're saying it now. He nods, eyes glistening. I don't know how to fix it, Mom. I look at him for a long time. The son who once built Lego castles on this very floor now looks like a man finally realizing what's worth keeping. You start, I say, by not repeating it. We eat in silence after that, but it's not uncomfortable. It's the silence of reflection of people trying to rebuild without the arrogance of apology. When the plates are cleared, I bring out the chocolate cake. Clara laughs when she sees it. You remembered the extra frosting. I never forget sugar, I say. It's the only thing that still sweetens life predictably. They both smile, a real one this time. For the first time in months, maybe years, laughter fills this house again. Gentle, genuine, unforced. After dessert, I pour tea for all of us. Daniel looks around and says softly, It feels different here today. It is, I reply. This house has been through enough lies. It needed truth to breathe again. He nods slowly. I'll do better, Mom. I mean it. I believe you want to, I say. Just remember, wanting isn't enough. Doing is the part that matters. He nods again, more firmly this time. Clara reaches for my hand under the table. We sit there for a long while, 3 people holding something fragile and real between them. As evening falls, Daniel helps me with the dishes. Lydia called, he says quietly as he scrubs a plate. She's threatening to take me to court for spousal support. I glance at him. Let her try. You'll survive it. He gives a small surprised laugh. You sound like Dad. Then maybe you're finally listening. When they both leave later that night, the house is quiet again, but not lonely. There's a difference. Before, the silence was heavy with absence. Now it's full of presence, full of something returning. I walk through each room, slowly touching the furniture, the framed photographs, the little imperfections that make this house mine. In the living room, I pause before Thomas's photo. I whisper, "We had dinner, love." And for once, everyone ate the truth. I pour myself a small glass of wine and sit by the window. Outside, the streetlights glow like soft lanterns. A few houses down, children laugh in a backyard. Somewhere, someone's dog barks at nothing. Ordinary sounds, but tonight they feel like blessings. I think about how family structures have changed over generations, how people used to live under one roof until the elders passed, how now we scatter like marbles, each chasing our own little dream. Sociologists say it's independence. Others call it fragmentation. People still debate whether freedom makes us better families or just more fragile ones. Maybe it's both. Maybe the trick is finding balance, loving without ownership, helping without control. My phone buzzes. A message from Clara Dinner was beautiful, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on us. I smile and reply simply, dinner's just the beginning. After I put the phone down, I sit for a long time letting the quiet stretch. I think about how easily I could have become bitter. How close I was to turning into one of those older women who live surrounded by resentment and reheated grudges. But maybe that's what survival really is, choosing not to become what hurt you. I glance at the clock. Midnight. Another day starting soon. Another chance to keep rewriting the story they tried to end. Biscuit jumps into my lap, warm and purring, and I whisper to her, "Looks like we're hosting family dinners again." She blinks slowly, as if agreeing. Outside, the wind picks up, carrying with it the faintest smell of rain, clean, forgiving, and new. I sip my wine, close my eyes, and whisper into the dark, "You probably won't survive your first betrayal, but if you do, you'll never fear another dinner again." And for the first time in years, I believe it. The following days unfold quietly, but in their stillness, something fundamental shifts inside me. I wake earlier than usual, without the heaviness that used to anchor me to the bed. The house feels different, lighter, as if it has exhaled after years of holding its breath. Maybe forgiveness isn't loud or cinematic. Maybe it's just this an untroubled morning coffee that tastes a little sweeter and sunlight that doesn't feel like intrusion. I step outside to water the garden. The autumn air is sharp but kind. The roses, though sparse, are still trying their best to bloom. I relate to them more than ever, bruised, a little wilted, but refusing to die. Across the street, I see neighbors walking their dog, waving at me like they always do. It's strange how normal life can continue around you, even while your own has been crumbling. Maybe that's what keeps us sane, the small, steady rhythm of ordinary kindness. By noon, Harold calls. "Mrs. Carver," he says in that reassuringly composed voice, "everything's officially filed. You're protected from any legal challenges." He pauses, then adds, "But I should warn you, Lydia's reached out to a lawyer of her own." I can't help smiling. Of course she did. She won't get far, he assures me. "You're covered. I'll keep you updated if she tries anything more serious." "Thank you, Harold," I say, and I mean it. "I'm starting to think you're the only man I can rely on these days." He chuckles. "Well, I'll take that as a compliment." After the call, I sit by the window again, but this time not to wait for bad news. I'm thinking about what comes next. The past few weeks have been about survival, protection, and truth. But maybe now it's time for rebuilding not just relationships, but myself. I decide to go through the old attic boxes, the ones I'd been avoiding since Thomas passed. It's time. The air up there smells of dust and cedar, the ghosts of decades sealed in cardboard. Inside the first box are old holiday cards from the kids' drawings, from when they were still innocent. To Mommy, one reads in Daniel's uneven handwriting, "You are my best friend." The ink is faded, but the sentiment is not. I smile through the sting of tears. Maybe I've been too focused on who they became to remember who they once were. The second box holds photographs, vacations, school plays, birthdays. Lydia's face appears in the later ones, always composed, always aware of the camera. But in between her polished smiles, I notice the real heart of those images, me. Thomas, the kids. The laughter was real once. The love, too. And maybe that means it can still exist, even if it looks different now. I find something else near the bottom of the box, a small wrapped gift with my name written in Thomas's handwriting. I must have missed it before. My fingers tremble as I unwrap it. Inside is a simple silver key with a note, "For when you're ready to start again." No explanation, no location. Typical Thomas enigmatic even in death. But I know exactly what it unlocks: the old cabin by the lake, our retreat, the one we hadn't visited in over 10 years. I hold the key tightly, my heart fluttering. Maybe it's time. The next morning, I pack a small bag and drive out of town. The lake lies about 40 miles north, surrounded by pines and quiet roads that remember your secrets. The drive is therapeutic, trees blurring past the hum of the tires, the radio whispering old songs. It feels like shedding a skin I'd been trapped in too long. When I reach the cabin, it's just as I remember, weathered, but standing strong like an old friend who's aged gracefully. Dust clings to the windows, the porch creaks, but inside it smells faintly of cedar and memory. I open all the windows and let the light in. For hours, I clean, sweep, and air it out. Each motion feels like reclaiming another piece of my own story. As the sun begins to set, I light a fire in the old stone hearth. The crackle fills the silence. I sit in the armchair where Thomas used to read, holding a cup of tea. It's so peaceful, I almost forget the world beyond these trees. Here, no forged signatures, no manipulative dinners, just stillness. I speak aloud, knowing no one will answer. "Thomas, I think I finally understand. You didn't build this cabin just for us to escape the world. You built it to remind me that peace doesn't come from people, it comes from presence." The flames flicker as if in agreement. That night, I step outside to the porch. The lake reflects the moon perfectly, the surface unbroken. I breathe deeply, the cold air biting and clean. For the first time in years, I feel small in the right way, like part of something vast and forgiving. Back inside, I check my phone. There are 2 missed calls from Clara and a text that says Daniel wants to apologize again. "We'd like to come see you this weekend if that's okay." I stare at the message for a while, then type slowly, "Come to the cabin, bring the kids." No talk of money, just memories. I hit send and smile. The next few days are calm. I walk around the lake, collect pine cones, read old letters aloud to the empty air. The solitude isn't lonely, it's restorative. There's an old superstition that lakes remember every voice ever spoken near them. I hope that's true. I hope this one remembers laughter more than betrayal. People still debate whether solitude heals or isolates. For me, it's both a mirror that shows you exactly how much of yourself you've lost and dares you to find it again. When Clara and Daniel arrive with the kids, the cabin fills with life instantly. Laughter echoes against the wooden beams. The children run down to the dock, their shouts slicing through the calm. Clara helps me cook while Daniel fixes the old swing outside. It feels like a second chance, not perfect, but real. That night, we all sit around the fire. The kids roast marshmallows while I tell them stories about their grandfather, how he once fell in the lake trying to catch a fish bigger than his pride. They giggle, and for a moment even Daniel laughs freely. When the children go to bed, the 3 of us stay by the fire, quiet but comfortable. Daniel breaks the silence first. "Mom," he says softly, "this place, it feels like him." "It is him," I reply. "He built it for us." For when things got too loud, Clara looks at me. "Do you think he'd forgive us?" I smile faintly, gazing at the firelight. "He'd remind you that forgiveness isn't about deserving, it's about deciding. And I've already decided." The flames crackle softly, as if applauding. Later, when I step outside again, the stars shimmer above the lake, reflected perfectly on its still surface. For the first time since the night I was excluded from that dinner, I don't feel left out of anything. I feel included in everything that still matters. Tomorrow, I'll teach my grandchildren how to make Thomas's pancakes. Maybe we'll fish. Maybe we'll just sit by the water. Either way, the table will be full again, of laughter, of forgiveness, of presents. And this time, no one will ever be left out. Morning comes to the lake wrapped in mist, the kind that blurs the line between water and sky. I wake to the sound of gentle knocking, my grandchildren impatient to start their day. Their laughter fills the cabin before I even reach the door. It's a sound that makes everything worth it. Clara is already in the kitchen making coffee while Daniel chops firewood outside. For the first time in years, our family feels functional, not perfect, but breathing. I pour a cup of coffee and step out to the porch. Daniel glances up, wiping his brow. "You used to tell me this place was magic," he says. "I didn't believe you then." And now I ask, smiling. He looks around at the still water, the streaks of sunrise glinting through the trees. Now I think I understand. Magic isn't the place, it's what it does to people. He's right. This lake has a way of stripping away everything unnecessary: titles, grudges, guilt. Here, we're just people again, not roles. Not mother, daughter, son, inheritor, betrayer, just people trying to start over. After breakfast, Clara and I take the children down to the dock. They throw breadcrumbs into the water, squealing as the fish swarm. Watching them, I remember my own childhood summers barefoot, days, muddy knees, the smell of lake water that lingered long after we returned home. I'd forgotten how much joy could exist in simple things. Clara sits beside me. "Mom," she says, "you were right to bring us here. It feels like everything is finally slowing down." I nod. That's what the world forgets to do. It keeps moving and people forget to sit still long enough to remember who they are. She hesitates, then adds, "Daniel wants to fix things with you permanently. He said he's done letting guilt and money decide how we act." I smile faintly. He's learning. Sometimes losing everything teaches you what's worth keeping. We sit in silence for a while, the kind that heals rather than hurts. The children's laughter drifts across the waterlight as sunlight. Later that afternoon, we gather around the old picnic table outside. Daniel grills while I prepare the salad. Clara brings out a small portable speaker and plays music, soft, nostalgic tunes Thomas used to hum while fixing the car. The melody floats through the air, gentle and forgiving. Halfway through lunch, Daniel clears his throat. "Mom, I need to ask you something." I look up. "Go on." "When you found out about what we did about the dinner, the signature, what did you feel first? Anger or sadness?" I think for a moment. "Neither. Shock, maybe. Then clarity. Betrayal isn't about anger, it's about recognition. It shows you the truth about the people you trusted. Once you see that there's no going back." He nods, eyes downcast. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight." I reach over and squeeze his hand. "You already have it. Forgiveness isn't for you, Daniel. It's for me. It's how I stop carrying what you did." His shoulders relax, and for the first time he looks genuinely at peace. As the sun begins to dip, turning the lake into a sheet of gold, Clara suggests a walk through the woods. The air smells of pine and damp soil. The kids run ahead, chasing dragonflies, their laughter echoing through the trees. We stop at a clearing where wildflowers have grown in chaotic harmony. "It's funny," I say softly, "how nature heals itself without asking for permission." Clara looks at me, understanding. "And we can too." I smile. "Exactly." That evening, we light a bonfire by the shore. The flames crackle and the children roast marshmallows, their faces glowing orange in the light. Daniel tells an old story about Thomas, the one where he accidentally painted the roof instead of fixing it. The kids laugh so hard they almost drop their sticks. For a while, I just watched them memorizing the scene, the light, the sound, the smell of smoke and sweetness. This is the real inheritance. Not the house, not the money, but the memory that we found our way back to one another. When the fire burns low and the stars spill across the sky, I whisper into the night, "You see, Thomas." The table's full again. People still debate whether family is chosen or inherited. I think the truth is simpler. Family is what shows up when everything else falls apart. And tonight mine finally did. The next morning, I wake to the sound of rain tapping softly against the cabin roof. The lake is veiled in mist again, and the trees seem to bow slightly under the weight of the morning drizzle. Inside, the children are still asleep, bundled up in blankets, their soft breathing blending with the rain's rhythm. Clara and Daniel sit by the window drinking coffee, talking quietly. I linger in the doorway for a moment, just watching them. The distance that once stood between us has thinned to something tender, something fragile but real. I pour myself a cup of coffee and join them. No one speaks for a while. The silence feels full, like the house itself is exhaling. Eventually, Clara says, "It feels strange not to be rushing anywhere." "That's the point," I reply. "You can't rebuild something while you're still running from it." Daniel nods, gazing out at the gray water. "I think Dad would have liked this," he says softly. "He would," I answer. "He'd probably be outside right now pretending he could fix the leaky gutter in the rain." We all laugh and the sound feels pure light. After breakfast, they pack up to leave. The children hug me tight, promising to visit again soon. Clara kisses my cheek, whispering, "Thank you for giving us another chance." Daniel lingers a little longer, his voice low. "Mom, I'm proud of you." I smile, my throat tightening. "You just remember what I told you. Love doesn't die when it's tested. It proves itself." When their car disappears down the gravel road, the cabin falls silent again. But it's a peaceful kind of silence, the kind that holds gratitude instead of grief. I tidy the kitchen, then step out onto the porch one last time. The rain has stopped. A thin rainbow stretches faintly over the lake, reflected perfectly on the water's surface. I breathe in deeply, letting the cold air fill my lungs. For the first time in a long while, I feel whole. Everything that mattered has survived truth, love, and the quiet dignity of knowing I never needed their approval to belong. Maybe one day they'll inherit this cabin not as property but as a story. The story of how we almost broke apart and how somehow we didn't. As I turn back inside, I whisper, "Dinner's over, Thomas. But the table's still here, and that's enough." Hey guys, if you've stayed with me till now, thank you. Stories like this one aren't about revenge or victory. They're about survival, the quiet kind that happens when no one's watching. You see, life has a strange way of teaching us through absence. Sometimes the seat they take away from you is the one you were never meant to stay in forever. Sometimes being left out of the dinner is what makes you finally build your own table. Families change, people shift, love gets tested. But the truth remains, peace doesn't live where approval does. It lives where honesty starts. I learned that too late maybe, but not too late to start again. So if you're listening to this somewhere quiet, maybe your own kitchen, maybe a long drive at night, remember that every heartbreak is a doorway. You just have to be brave enough to walk through it. To all my subscribers and those who've joined me for stories like this, thank you for being part of this strange little family we've built here. Your comments, your thoughts, your stories, they remind me that none of us are truly alone even when it feels like we are. Now turn off the lights, take a breath, and rest easy tonight. Because even after the hardest betrayals, the heart knows how to rebuild. Good night, my friends.